Bengali Hindus are ethnic Bengali adherents of Hinduism, and native to the Bengal region of the Indian subcontinent. Bengali Hindus speak Bengali, which is classified as a part of the Indo-Aryan language family, and adhere to the Shakta and Vaishnava traditions of their native religion, Hinduism. Around the 8th century, Bengali branched off from Magadhi Prakrit, a derivative from Sanskrit that was prevalent in the eastern region of the Indian subcontinent at that time. During the Sena period, the Bengali culture developed into a distinct culture within the Hindu civilization. With the spread of Islam in the region in subsequent centuries, Islamic characteristics grew among Bengalis who converted to that religion. Although Bengali Hindus and Muslims continued to have significant similarities, Bengali Hindus were at the forefront of the Bengal Renaissance in the 19th century. The Bengal region was noted for its participation in struggle for the independence from the British rule. At the time of independence of India in 1947, the province of Bengal was partitioned between Bengali Hindus and Bengali Muslims into West Bengal and East Bengal, parts of India and Pakistan, respectively. Millions of Bengali Hindus migrated from East Bengal and settled in West Bengal and other states of India. The migration continued in waves through the 50s and 60s, especially during the violence of 1950 and 1964. In 1971, during the Bangladesh Liberation War, an estimated 2.4 million Bengali Hindus were massacred by the Pakistani army. Estimates for the total number of people killed by Pakistan Army range from 300,000 to 3 million. The Bengali Hindu population is mainly concentrated in the Indian state of West Bengal and Bangladesh. While in the Indian states of West Bengal and Tripura they are in majority, in the other Indian states like Assam, Meghalaya, Jharkhand and the Union Territory of Andaman and Nicobar Islands they form a significant linguistic minority. The Bengali Hindus thus constitute a minority ethnic group both in India and Bangladesh, forming less than 10% of the population in both the countries. From the 60s, like many other ethnic groups of India, many Bengali Hindus began to emigrate outside India, mostly to pursue higher studies or in search of lucrative careers. This gave rise to a sizable expatriate Bengali Hindu population in many parts of world. Ethnonym. The Hindus are a religious group, native to the Indian subcontinent, speaking a broad range of Indo-Aryan and Dravidian languages and adhering to the native belief systems, rooted in the Vedas. The word Hindu is popularly believed to be a Persian exonym for the people native to the Indian subcontinent. The word is derived from Sindhu, the Sanskrit name for the river Indus, and it initially referred to the people residing to the east of the river. The Hindus are constituted into various ethno-linguistic subgroups, which, in spite of being culturally diverse, share a common bond of unity. The word Bengali is an English exonym for the native Bengali word Bengali. The English word Bengali denoting the people as well as the language is derived from the English word Bengal denoting the region, which itself is derived ultimately from the Bengali word Banga, which was one of the 5 historical kingdoms of eastern India. According to Haravamsa, Bali, the king of the Asuras, had 5 sons from his wife Sudeshna through sage Durgatama. The 5 sons, namely Anga, Vanga, Kalinga, Pundra and Sumha, went on found 5 kingdoms of the same name in the eastern region of the Indian subcontinent. In ancient times Vanga proper consisted of the Dalthaic region between Bhagirathi, Padma and Madhumati, but later on extended to include the regions which now roughly comprise the Indian state of West Bengal and Bangladesh. The Bengali Hindu people belong to the broader Hindu people. In India, they tend to identify themselves as Bengalis, while in Bangladesh they tend to identify themselves as Hindus. In the global context, the terms Indian Bengali and Bangladeshi Hindu are respectively used. In India, Bengali generally refers to Bengali Hindus. The other is usually identified as non-Bengali, a term that generically refers to the Indian people who are not Bengali-speaking, but sometimes specifically used to denote the Hindi-speaking population. Ethnology. The Bengali Hindus constitute of numerous endogamous castes, which are sometimes further subdivided into endogamous subgroups. The caste system evolved over centuries and became more and more complex with time. In the medieval period, several castes were boycotted by the ruling classes from time to time, and this isolation continued till the 19th century. These social boycotts were somewhat discriminatory in nature. After the Renaissance, the rigidity of the caste system ceased to a great extent. So much so that the first celebrated intercaste marriage took place as early as in 1925. The Bengali Hindu families are patriarchal as well as patrilocal and traditionally follow a joint family system. However, due to the partition and subsequent urbanization, the joint families have given way to the nuclear families. The Bengali Hindus were traditionally governed by the Deobagh school of law, as opposed to the Mitaksara school of law, which governed the other Hindu ethno-linguistic groups. In India, after the promulgation of the Hindu Code Bills, the Bengali Hindus along with other Hindus are being governed by a uniform Hindu law. There are two major social subgroups among the Bengali Hindus, the Ghotis and the Bangals. The Bengali Hindus who emigrated from Pakistan at the wake of the partition and settled in West Bengal, came to known as the Bangals, while the native Bengali Hindus of West Bengal came to known as Ghotis. For several decades after partition, these two social subgroups possessed marked difference in their accents, and their rivalry was manifested in many spheres of life, most notably in the support for the football clubs of East Bengal and Mohun Bagan respectively. Several such differences have eased with passing years. History. Ancient period. In the ancient times, some of the Bengali Hindus were seafaring people, as evident from Vijay Singha's naval conquest of Lanka. The tales of merchants like Chand Sadagar and Dhanapati Saudagar, whose ships sailed to far-off places for trade and establishment of colonies in Southeast Asia. By the 3rd century BCE, they were united into a powerful state, known to the Greeks as Gangaridai, whose military prowess demoralized Alexander from further expedition to the east. Later the region of Bengal came under Maurya, Shunga and Gupta rule. In the 7th century, Shashanka became the independent Bengali Hindu ruler of Gaur. He successfully fought against his adversaries Harshavardhana and Bashkaravarmana and protected the sovereignty of the people. Medieval period. In the middle of the 8th century, the Bengali Hindu nobility democratically elected Gopala as the ruler of Gaur, ushering in an era of peace and prosperity in Bengal, ending almost a century of chaos and confusion. The Buddhist Pala rulers unified Bengal into a single political entity and expanded it into an empire, conquering a major portion of North India. During this time, the Bengali Hindus excelled in art, literature, philosophy, mathematics, sciences and statecraft. The first scriptures in Bengali Charyapada was composed during the Pala rule. The Pala were followed by the Senis, who made far-reaching changes in the social structure of Bengali Hindus, introducing 36 new castes and orthodox institutions like Kulanism. The literary progress of the Pala and Sena period came to a halt after the Turkish conquest in the early 13th century. Except for Haridas Datta's Manazarbasa, no significant literary work was composed for about a century after the conquest. Even though the ruling classes resisted the invaders, Gaur, the center of Bengal polity, felt the Islamic invaders. During this period, hundreds of temples and monasteries were desecrated. The next attack on the society came from the Islamic missionaries. Local chieftains like Akananda, Dakshan Ray and Mukut Ray resisted the missionary activities. The Pathan occupation of Bengal was limited to the region of Gaur, the rest of which was held in sway by different Bengali Hindu rulers. Islam religion gradually spread throughout the Bengal region, and many Bengali Hindus were converted to Islam. In the early 15th century, the Pathan rule of Gauda was overthrown by the Bengali Hindu nobility under the leadership of Ganesha. When the Delhi-based Mughals tried to bring Bengal under their direct rule, the Bengali Hindu chiefs along with some Bengali Muslims consolidated themselves into confederacies and resisted the Mughals. After the fall of the confederacies, the Mughals brought a major part of Bengal under their control, and constituted a Suba. Independent Bengali Hindu kingdoms like Tripura and Coch Bihar continued to maintain their sovereignty. Early modern period. During the decline of the Mughal Empire, Nawabs of Bengal ruled large part of Bengal. During the reign of Alivadi Khan, a Nawab, the severe taxation and frequent raids made the life miserable for the ordinary Bengali people. A section of the Bengali Hindu nobility helped the British East India Company in overthrowing the Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah regime. After obtaining the revenue rights, the East India Company imposed more oppressive taxation that led to the famine of 1770. In which approximately one-third of the Bengali population died of starvation. The British began to face stiff resistance in conquering the semi-independent Bengali Hindu kingdoms outside the Pale of Muslim-occupied Bengal. In some cases, even when their rulers have been captured or killed, the ordinary people began to carry on the fight. These resistances took the form of Bhumijan rebellion. These warring people were later listed as criminal tribes and barred from recruitment in the Indian Army. In 1766, the British troops were completely routed by the sannyasis and fakirs, or the warrior monks at Dinhata, where the latter resorted guerrilla warfare. Bankim Chandra's Anandamath is based on the famine and consequential Sannyasi rebellion. British rule, Renaissance, struggle for independence. According to author James Jeremiah Novak, as British rulers took power from Bengal's ruling Muslim class, they strategically catered to Bengali Hindus. The British rule destroyed the basis of Bengali Muslim society. Bengali Hindus got favours from the British rulers, and experienced development in education and social mobility. In the 19th century, the elite class of Bengali Hindu people underwent radical social reforms and rapid modernization. The phenomenon came to be known as the Bengal Renaissance. Riding on the Renaissance, Bengali Hindus revived the sense of patriotism in the late 1860s, and by the turn of the 20th century, they were envisioning a modern nation-state. Public media like press and theatres had become vents of nationalist sentiments. Apolitical organizations had given way to political platforms. Secret revolutionary societies had emerged, and the society at large had become restive. With rising nationalism among Bengali Hindus, the British rulers applied divide-and-rule policy, and started to make favours to Bengali Muslims. In order to keep the rising Bengali Hindu aspirations at bay, the British partitioned the province in 1905 and along with some additional restructuring came up with two provinces, Eastern Bengal and Assam in Bengal itself, in each of which the Bengali Hindus were reduced to minorities. The Bengali Hindus, however, opposed to the partition tooth and nail, embarked on a political movement of Swadeshi boycott and revolutionary nationalism. On the 28th of September 1905, the day of Mahalaya, 50,000 Bengali Hindus resolved before the mother at Kalayat to boycott foreign goods and stop employing foreigners. The British Raj finally annulled the partition in 1911. The Raj, however, carried out some restructuring, and carved out Bengali Hindu majority districts like Manbhum, Singhbhum, Santal Pargana and Purnia, awarding them to Bihar, and others like Kasha that were awarded to Assam, which effectively made the Bengali Hindus a minority in the united province of Bengal. The Britishers also transferred the capital from Calcutta to New Delhi. The revolutionary movement gained momentum after the partition. Bengali revolutionaries collaborated with the Germans during the war to liberate British India. Later the revolutionaries defeated the British Army in the Battle of Jalalabad and liberated Chittagong. During the Quit India movement, the revolutionaries liberated the Tamluk and Kante subdivision of Midnapore district from British rule and established the Tamralipta national government. The British, unable to control the revolutionary activities, decided to hinder the Bengali Hindu people through administrative reforms. The Government of India Act 1919 introduced in the 144-member Bengal Legislative Assembly, 46 seats for the Muslims, 59 for the institutions, Europeans and others, and left the rest 39 as general, where the Bengali Hindus were to scramble for a representation. The situation worsened with the Communal Award of 1932, where in the 250-member Bengal Legislative Assembly a disproportionate 119 seats were reserved for the Muslims, 17 for Europeans, Anglo-Indians and Indian Christians, 34 for the institutions, and the rest 80 were left as general. The Communal Award further divided the Hindus into scheduled caste Hindus and caste Hindus. Out of the 80 general seats, 10 were reserved for the scheduled castes. In response, the leading Bengali Hindu landholders, lawyers and professionals signed the Bengal Hindu Manifesto on 23 April 1932, rejecting the justification of reservation of separate electorates for Muslims in the Bengal Legislative Assembly. In 1946, the Muslim League government resorted to large-scale massacre of the Hindu population of Kolkata in the name of Direct Action Day, which escalated into the bloodiest ethnic conflict of modern India. After 2 days of suffering, the Bengali Hindus resorted to a violent reprisal that resulted in heavy casualties on the other side, finally forcing the government to stop the mayhem. Later in the year, the Muslim League government orchestrated the infamous Noakhali genocide. The Direct Action Day and the Noakhali genocide prompted the Bengali Hindu leadership to move for the creation of a Bengali Hindu majority province by partitioning Bengal. At that time, the movement for creation of Pakistan was in full swing and Bengal was supposed to form one of its constituent provinces. After the failure of United Bengal plan, when it became evident that all of Bengal would go to Pakistan, the Bengali Hindus voted for the partition of Bengal. On 23 April 1947, the Amrita Bazar Patrika published the results of an opinion poll, in which 98.3% of the Bengali Hindus favoured the creation of a separate homeland. The proposal for the partition of Bengal was moved in the Legislative Assembly on 20 June 1947, where the Hindu members voted 58 to 21 in favour of the partition with 2 members abstaining. The Boundary Commission awarded the Bengali Hindus a territory far less in proportion to their population, which was around 46% of the population of the province, awarding the Bengali Hindu majority district of Khulna to Pakistan. However, some Bengali Muslim majority districts such as Murshidabad and Malda were handed to India. Post-partition period. After the partition, the majority of the urban middle-class Bengali Hindu population of East Bengal immigrated to West Bengal. The ones who stayed back belonged to 2 categories: ones who had significant landed property and believed that they would be able to lead a normal life in an Islamic state, and others who were illiterate and backward and therefore had no other option left. However, after the genocide of 1950, Bengali Hindus fled East Bengal in thousands and settled in West Bengal. In 1964, tens of thousands of Bengali Hindus were massacred in East Pakistan, and most of the Bengali Hindu-owned businesses were permanently destroyed. During the Liberation War of Bangladesh, an estimated 2.4 million Bengali Hindus were massacred in Bangladesh. The Enemy Property Act of the Pakistan regime, which is still in force in the new incarnation of Vested Property Act, has been utilized by successive Bangladeshi governments to seize the properties of the Hindu minorities who left the country during the partition of India and Bangladesh Liberation War. According to Professor Abul Barkash of Dhaka University, the act has been used to misappropriate 2,100,000 acres of land from the Bengali Hindus, roughly equivalent to the 45% of the total landed area owned by them. The refugee rehabilitation became an acute crisis and hundreds of refugees were rehabilitated in the inhabitable terrains of Orissa, Chhattisgarh, Uttar Pradesh and the Andamans. Apart from that, thousands of Bengali Hindus had also immigrated to Assam, Tripura and other regions of the northeast. In the Barak Valley region of Assam, where the Bengali Hindus were in a majority because of the inclusion of Sylhet into Pakistan, and subsequent immigration of Bengali Hindus from Sylhet into Kashmir, an impasse was arrived at on the question of language. The government of Assam had unilaterally imposed Assamese as the sole medium of education. In response, the Bengali Hindus began peaceful demonstrations demanding Bengali as the optional medium of primary education in the Barak Valley region. The situation took an ugly turn on 19 May 1961, when 11 Bengali Hindu protesters including a minor girl were gunned down by the police at the Silchar railway station. Subsequently, the Assam government allowed Bengali as the medium of education in Barak Valley. However, the rise of ethnic militancy in the 80s and 90s once again made the Bengali Hindus vulnerable in the northeast. The United Liberation Front of Assam, National Democratic Front of Bodoland, Muslim United Liberation Tigers of Assam and National Liberation Front of Tripura militants have selectively targeted the Bengali Hindu people, prompting the latter to form the Bengali Tiger Force. Discrimination against Bengali Hindu population is not limited to the northeast. In Jharkhand, the Bengali Hindu demand of making Bengali the second official language has not been met, in spite of the fact that the Bengali Hindu population forms the second largest linguistic group in the state. In Bihar, many Bengali Hindu refugees are denied land-owning rights and caste certificates. On the other hand, massive infiltration from Bangladesh has substantially altered the demography in West Bengal, so much so that Bengal Hindus have been reduced to minorities in the border regions.